question. So we brought a really interesting group of panelists. They have very different experiences, but I think that will provide a really kind of rich overview of the healthcare ecosystem. I also, before we start, I wanted to introduce the Health Innovators Circle. So pretty excited about this event. This is our first event. So this is a community that Sinead and I co-founded late last year. The reason why we did that is because we're both really passionate about healthcare and creating a positive impact. But what we wanted to do is also create an environment just for healthcare staff as a community, because there's a lot of communities for general healthcare, general startups, but nothing really specific for healthcare. So we felt that we needed to kind of create that environment. What we're doing is we're holding events. So we're holding events for the broader healthcare community, but then we're also looking at holding the hand of women founders in healthcare to help them accelerate the commercialization. So we're doing kind of two streams to support women as well. So we've got amazing panelists. I'll get you each to introduce yourself. That would be Simone.
Hi everyone, thanks so much for having us here today. I'm Simone Croft. I'm the CEO of the Leading Institute for Applied Research. We're based in southwestern Sydney. I'm quite new to Ingham. I've been there about 2 months, and I've come here after a 20-year career in public health. So I'm talking about partnerships in public health in the research environment today.
Thank you. Thanks everyone. My name is Vikram. I'm the CEO of a company called ConsultMed, which you'll hear about a little bit today. It's a digital referral solution. I'm also a pediatric respiratory physician, and I work at UNSW teaching value-based. I think the reason I'm here today is to talk a little bit about partnerships when you're setting up a company and how you can do that well in the healthcare environment.
Hi everybody. As Pat mentioned, I'm the co-founder of Health Innovators Circle. But I'm not here today. Well, I am here today wearing two hats. Obviously, supporting and very excited to be here at Health Innovators Circle. But my day job is working from Microsoft. I'm the partnerships lead for healthcare software companies from Microsoft across Asia. ConsultMed are one of my amazing partners, and I'm very excited to share the experience that I've had as a partner manager in software space.
I'm Phil. I'm a recovering chief executive of healthcare ventures, companies in healthcare and biotech. Today, I coach organisations on how to build partnerships. So that is a consequence of building a business that didn't have a strong balance sheet, that didn't have the ability to market, and to do all the things we had to find a way. And over the years, we built a program that helped us navigate through the needle and get us to a place where people would look at our businesses and say, how did you get to market the way you did? How did you get regulation the way you were able to achieve it? And it was all through the way that we did partnerships like 10 states today. And looking forward to sharing more about that.
Yeah. Simone, I wanted to start with you because your partnerships, the world of partnerships, is quite complex. So I was hoping you can share with your audience, what does partnership in your kind of ecosystem look like?
So at the Ingham and in southwestern Sydney, we're quite an emerging area in southwestern Sydney. We're not one of the traditional tribes like RPA or North Shore. So we've really had a tremendous growth in research in health service development. Since I've been in the southwest, all new redevelopment hospitals, not one coming. It really is an area of growth and change within that. And so I think that has meant that partnerships is all we do. It feels like, my previous role was director of partnerships and working within the complex web. And I suppose when I think about partnerships, I always think about which ones are successful and why and how we do that. And we have so many partnerships. Frankly, they're not always successful, but you have to, it's who are your key collaborators there and who are the people who make things happen. So for example, in terms of the Ingham, we work very closely with 5 universities, with there are 17,000 staff members in the local health district. There are the ecosystem of the councils, often in outer Western Sydney places, who will work more with your local collaborators because everyone's there for a reason. And I think it's really understanding why are people there for the reason and what makes them tick, and that's when you make things happen in partnership. And I was just reflecting with someone here just before, and yesterday we got a big win. We put in a joint application with one of the clinicians at the local health district. And you don't always get wins out of partnerships. And what were the factors of the partnership that made that big win happen? And I think I've made my career in really as an enabler, facilitator, and navigator. So I had started off in the Ministry of Health and worked quite a few places overseas before coming to South Western Sydney. So really, that has enabled me to navigate the ecosystem to then work in partnership to get. And I think I always smile. I always like every partnership. I really kind of said, which are the ones where I can make things happen and where we're going to get our outcomes. And then I'll bring my team, wrap around that person. We will have really clear outcomes to make that happen. Knowing which clinicians and how to reach. I also work really closely with a professor of research who is both from the LHD and the INA. And that means that we have diversity, enough diversity in our team to reach into different partnerships in different areas. So I think that kind of is a special mix. I call it a bit of a unicorn, which, because you don't always have that mix, but developing that environment and those close stakeholders so you can bring other people in your partnerships to help drive that. And that's really been our modus operandi. And I know we'll say this later today, but as a navigator, facilitator, I'm really happy after today. If someone is having issues navigating the system, I've only navigated it for 25 years. I'd love to help you navigate the system, connect you with our clinicians, because it is so hard and getting real outcomes is so difficult. We're stronger together.
I actually think, as you said, navigating is actually finding the right person to speak to that will be quite challenging. So any tips or anything that, where could you start potentially?
I think, like when I was just thinking about this big win that we got yesterday, which was a collaboration environment, the way I helped the clinician, he's always like an entrepreneur, a clinician entrepreneur, navigate the system, was I did two things. One is clinicians are really good at lots of things, but they often don't know how to write for government and how to speak to government. And so I wrote the document and really tailored it to the government. But people couple of skills, so I was able to bring the senior commission myself. As the non-finished attractive decision making.
And then you can tailor your message when you need all of them to make sure that you're addressing each of their needs in those sessions. Yeah, thank you. Vikram, you've got an interesting, a very different way of partnerships, because we do direct partnerships, and you also do partnerships with implementers. Is that right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, tell us a bit more about that.
So as we've grown in Consultment over the last couple of years, we've moved from the startup phase to maybe the scale phase now. And so with growing a company, with different challenges, and as you grow, one of our key partnerships is with implementation partners. So as we roll out our product to large public hospitals and private hospital networks, we need help to actually implement. There's only so many of us, and we'd rather tools that actually focus on the technology. So some of our partnerships are with service integrators and implementation partners who will do the professional services in order to help the technology be implemented. Some examples that we have are with Fujitsu Australia and NOWS Consulting Group and KPMG, who have seen what we do, have seen that it's of use to the public system, and then to help implement. The other type of partnership, obviously, is a software development partnership as well. So we have our own software developers. But again, as you're growing, we've found, in our case, that there's never-ending integrations that you need to do with different systems. In our case, with the GP systems, hospital systems, there's certain expertise that you need sometimes as well that you might not otherwise have. That expertise is hard to get, which is where you might bring in those consultants. And I found that once you have developed a relationship and build that trust with that technology partner, you kind of invest that time at the start, then it reaps reward later, and then the next project, and they kind of become part of an extended team. So we at the moment are doing 4 deployments at the moment and 2 integrations, and we have 3 of our partners who kind of work with the team really closely, and they kind of become an extended part of the team. And that helps, I think, particularly small companies who don't otherwise have all the resources to get to scale.
It's not hard because you're right, as a partner, you've got, as you said, you've got those relationships with the implementers, but also the end user. How do you manage that? Is it potentially conflict or no conflict? Or?
Yeah, so the end user partnerships that you're talking about are with some of our customers. So one of our marquee customers we started Consultment 4 years ago was Sydney Children's Hospitals Network, who really tried the product, provided us with feedback, that rolled out for years now. And generally that relationship, for us anyway, has been really positive with your end users, because obviously they're the ones who you're building the product around. So you want them to use the product, like the product, have that product fit, but also if they come across an issue, obviously, or a problem or something that they want to, an extra feature or something that they want, you know that you immediately have that product because if they want to as well. And so generally that's worked really well. We get feedback from our end users, and then almost immediately link it straight into our development cycle. So if they're saying we need another integration with this system, and that's what helps us prioritize what we need to do. I think we're slowly getting better at formalizing that. We're still pretty early, but I know that there's other vendors and other companies who really have a really nice community of practice set up where they'll invite their end users to come in and work together and share ideas and things and help that organisation with the roadmap. We're increasingly getting those requests, which is good. So it's something that we'll formalise, but again, it's kind of a more of a formal way of bringing your customers.
And Sinead, tell us about your ecosystem.
Yeah, so like Microsoft is a really interesting beast, and I I spend a lot of my time talking to founders on how to navigate, talking about navigation, like how to navigate a massive software company. It can be really, really difficult. And so I feel that I'm kind of, my role is almost the lighthouse to sort of help people along that journey and make sure that they're connecting to the right people in Microsoft. So just to give you an example, and you know, we're not that different to many of the other hyperscalers or huge software companies in that, you know, we thrive in an ecosystem environment. We are absolutely partner first, well, customer first, partner always, I think is one of the several phrases that we use. But the role for us is to really understand deeply industry and then take that industry knowledge to make sure that we've got the right partners, customers that our sales team are dealing with. And the ultimate game is to have the sales teams essentially sell the partner's product. We refer to that as co-selling. But you know, that's kind of the, you know, nirvana stage, to have our sellers go out and represent, you know, ConsultNet or represent, you know, any of our software partners. But to get to that stage takes quite a bit. There's a number of hurdles we expect our company, our, you know, partners to work through. We as the partner development team have to work through, you know, trying to get airtime with the sales team that is selling, you know, 100 other, at least other, you know, products that probably pay them a bit more than selling a software product is quite hard. So, you know, the partnership ecosystem within Microsoft is equally as tricky as the external partnerships, you know, ecosystem. But I think that certainly what I've noticed I've been there 3.5 years, is going deep in industry really helps. So, you know, my passion for healthcare, I feel, comes through when I'm talking to the partners that I'm talking to, because I understand, or as much as I can understand, you know, the challenges that they're facing, and can empathize, and they can translate that back to a salesperson who doesn't necessarily, you know, live and breathe in it every single day and is still kind of challenged by ensuring they're closing their deals.
What you said is really valuable. You have to actually build those relationships and understand what they need and provide them all the information. So that they can As a recovering CEO, what do partnerships look like in your world? And also now your focus is full partnerships. So keen to understand what you're seeing in your current.
I think it's really interesting hearing the perspectives of each of you. When we hear these old adages, things like win-win, and we hear about how do we actually make that work. I guess when I reflected on 50 partnerships I've crafted, some have been spectacular. They've been the top 10%. There's a very large majority of those who have been okay. And there have been some absolute smashed into a wall of light speed. And there are some factors which have been very consistent across each of those. And it took a while to sort of get a sense about what it was I was seeing as we sort of reviewed all of these side by side. And that's right across different industries, because it's fascinating to understand that there are probably 5 factors that play a material role. None of them will surprise you when you hear them. The problem is that we don't think about them forward as we're going into a partnership to make decisions as to whether we should pull the trigger on one or not. So the first one comes down to intent. Intent is a very powerful word when somebody can understand what you're actually talking about. So if I have a language around Microsoft, I guarantee that in somebody who's on the outside, it is vastly different to the language being spoken on the inside. And so the ability for us to have a conversation around intent is actually based on the fact that if I was not in the room, then my partner could fight for me because she understands what I need. And the same is in reverse. So we understand each other well, and the only way we can build strong enough intent is by spending time together. Right? Now, do it in any format you like, obviously in person is best. But the idea about cementing intent is where at 10% drive than 90%. Because we assume that the intention is well understood. Because in the meetings you're having, a lot of nodding. Yes, I agree. Often a lot of adverbs. You're going to say completely, totally,
100%.
100%, absolutely. Yeah. Red flag, keep an ear out for adverbs. They're very bad in partnership conversations because it's easy to go, yep, we're on the same page. You're actually completely on the same page. And there are, which it's all around a full slide presentation with code slides. And that's get you on the same page. The second one is around dual benefits. It's like you have to have at least two benefits coming your way, and your partner has to have at least two benefits coming their way. And it's not about 50-50, because the value that I need is vastly different than that. Because you have different things you need to try and achieve. I might need cash as a startup. I might need to demonstrate revenue, run rate. And for you as a partner, if you're thinking about 50-50 split, you might actually look, you guys have 70, we'll take 30. Because we know if you're sustainable, we're successful. But dual. We think about time as being really important too. So healthcare partnerships take time. But that doesn't mean they can not achieve stuff. You don't need a quick win early, then people say, but we all think when somebody says, and that's a great point, let's just do a rolling 12-month rate. Do not do that. Because by the time you get to month 4, you're already in renegotiations. So the idea is a 2 + 1, 3 years. Buy yourself the time. Second last step is have at least 5 allies on the other side. And when you have those allies, people shoot roles. If they leave, if a priority shifts, the chance of your life service area increasing because you can see bad news coming goes through the roof, because there are 5 people that might communicate to you as opposed to one person you might receive a call from, maybe even a news story. And the last one is something I should know about. Yeah. Landing a really good first one about really material. We have this term phrase, I don't know where it came from. Every year you get 5. These are the cards you can put on the table when you're trying to forge partnerships. We are both going to put our living capital on the table. That's putting one card there. Only get 5, the numbers are. But if this partnership comes off, I get to pick that card off the table and I can play it again. Because my reputation is going, my capital in this organisation is not. If I stop playing these cards and they don't come back to me, what's going to happen? I can't play anything. I haven't got street cred, I've got the good side of it. And so when we talk about these first wins, it's about before you sign a deal, you know what that first win is going to be. And that is your only mission for that partnership for the first 6 months. Because as soon as you can play it back, people go, actually, this is good. No surprises here. If you look at every single one of the letters that leads into those statements, it spells ideal. And so I'll say nothing more to that. The only thing I would want you to take away from this, next time you're forging a partnership, just ask yourself one question. Is this ideal for us? And if it's not, don't do it. Because life's just too short for a really underdeveloped partnership. Thank you, good night.
I actually do have a question. Feel better.
Yeah.
Because everyone thinks partnership that should be 50-50.
Sure.
How do you educate with the party that you're doing a partnership to agree to, as you said, maybe 70 my way and 30 their way? Because that doesn't seem fair at all.
So it's interesting, right? So if let's just roll back a second. Let's go to startup as well. Okay, large company. Startup needs stuff that large company can give. Large company has a bunch of stuff, and the smaller company needs that as well. So pick two benefits, and be open in the exchange. What we really need is demonstrating that. Cool. All right. We have a bunch of levers. We have a bunch of levers that we can help with. On the other side, Microsoft needs throughput usage. of its products. That's the point of the modern market generally. So how can the startup drive more usage of the product? Because if I can demonstrate as a Microsoft person back to my people that I've got great throughput through, that's solving my internal needs. That makes me look good. It's costing me nothing. That's my job. But it means a lot to these guys. So as long as there's two things, this is not about it being 50-50. It's about being equal in quantity. But there needs to be two, right? Because a partnership based on 4 models of incentive is a whole lot better than just one. Because if for whatever reason the priority shifts and it was just that one thing holding the whole thing together, but if you have 2 on either side, then you've got some redundancy. And as a former pilot, I love redundancy. Because when I don't have redundancy, things can go wrong. Right, so we think about it. It's really important just to have an equilibrium and be good for that to change, but be honest about it.
Different. Are your partners 50-50 or do you have 2 and 2?
Yeah, I was just thinking about that.
Not to put me on the spot.
No. So I think some of the partnerships that we've had are very successful. We have lots of leaders on both sides, lots of opportunities, and the ones that have kind of not gone anywhere or haven't been as successful as we've wanted. We haven't had the motivation on both sides because there's been more than one.
One of the leaders that you have with the successful partnership that you've done.
So definitely monetary as well. So on both sides, what will often be key to even starting to explore why you might find that partnership. So that's one aspect. I think for us, it's ways around the opportunity to grow as well. So we partner with another system or hospital electronic medical record system. It means that market opportunity increases immediately. On the other side, that opportunity, so the other side might mean that they have also access to new customers. It doesn't necessarily mean immediate return on investment, exposure as well, like market exposure, and for us again, being a small company that's growing, that's really important. So partnership with a big tech giant like Microsoft, big systems, etc. Is great for us in that sense because again, the brand is known and so a few things like that.
No, how do you partner with startups?
So we in my area we don't often directly partner with startups, but I think there's a few things there but we are very interested in facilitating startups, right, and helping them to navigate the system. And I was just thinking, I've got to get over this point, but I love the idea of framework. I've registered that point, absolutely. And the great thing you have at a startup is you can choose your partner. What power you have, right? But being in the kind of public sector and we can't choose all our partners, and but certainly we can understand the ideal, which I think is really, really important. So in our ecosystem, we, as I said, we're emerging. So there are places like Westmead, for example, who are much more advanced. And I think what it is for us and our startups is identifying those clinicians, we are mostly in the Southwest having clinician scientists who are doing the startups, and making sure that we navigate them onto the right pathway and partnerships to do that. So for us, and we can do that in many different ways. So I was talking to our cardiovascular clinician the other day, joining Cicada Westmead, which is fantastic. We have other partnerships. We have a partnership with Technion in Israel. And so where we working around microscopy in terms of that. So often we will, especially if they're one of our core clinician scientists, we will partner with them directly and do that kind of facilitation for them. But often for us, it's just making sure supporting the startup to be in the right position so they have a future pathway. Now, certainly it's one of our ambitions that into the future that we will be more supportive and be able to kind of have those clarified pathways. Katie here, my colleague, she's our research activation and industry partnerships director at night. We're still quite new in our roles, so we're still kind of forming that, to be really honest with you. But we certainly are very keen to make sure that those within our ecosystem are on the right track, and we will navigate that for them as much as possible. And one example of that, I suppose, is that we do have a commercialization committee, so people can take their ideas and their issues to that committee. And we have a multidisciplinary group, so clinicians, industry experts, etc., on this group who analyse the idea and then match it and to what they make. So we've got ways of making sure they're on the right train line.
I want to go back to something you said. You cannot choose your partner. What does that mean, and how do you manage them?
Well, I feel like I'm a lot older than I am. To be really honest with you. And I think the complexity of partnerships is a lot, especially because of that public-private sector dynamic. And I always thought that healthcare was complex, but actually I've got some other partners who are much more complex. And I think some of our other sectors that we know are within that are complex. So, but I think I'll go back to the ideal, because I really liked that framework, and it starts with intent, right? And so I'm going to go back to some of my partnerships and examine them for the ideal, making sure we're ticking those boxes, because I think you're right. If you sit down there and you've got the right intent, right, and we've both got that 4-slide PowerPoint presentation where you've developed it together, then you're on the right track, right? And
I just want to say that part of what you just said, lawyers are, and I'm not joking. A lot of people, when they're fortunate in partnership, the first people that have lawyers, for all the right reasons. The law is the formula, is a crystallization. Right? Their job is to try and make the law wrap around whatever you tell them. Usually, there isn't. So the lawyers are left to try and create language around a thing to protect the downside, with no real need to worry about what the upside is. Not because they don't want to, but because no one told them what their intention was. Right? And so the step that goes into this, the idea around having intent allows people to learn, particularly the ones who are going to get big things. So in case it doesn't work, here are all the fallout. It's very deep and complex. I think an informed that around is practical, the intention that was expressed in the partnership discussions, not something which is, well, look, this is the template we always use, so therefore we're going to throw you against the wall if this goes wrong. By the way, there is one line of intent, which is usually the several slides, that says, we are here to collaborate on an outcome. And if something's up in 2 years' time, which goes, what the hell is this about? What outcome are we here to talk about? And everyone's gone. So the partnership's not really working really good. So I think it's a good point.
oh yeah, and I mean, we recently, I came in the again, so I'm going to take responsibility for this, but we're in a 4-way partnership. It took 2.5 years to develop the legal documentation, and it's extremely painful. And I do wonder, I'm going to go back into the contract and think, how clear is that intent, right? Because you're absolutely right. You get lost in the legal if you don't have a crystallized partnership intent. Yeah.
And what are the common mistakes that you see startups and actually see lots of startups?
Common mistakes are probably, look, I see a lot of companies that try and build a product that fit a burning need that is maybe real right now, but might not always be real. And I don't want to call it AI medical science, but I have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 very amazing companies that I work with, that I partner with, that are doing something in that space. But there's another 150 behind them. And like, guys, at what point is this going to become really flooded to this market and completely saturated? And so, the advice that I regularly give to startups that I'm mentoring is, like, what is your moat? I mean, it's bringing it back to principles. What is your moat? How are you going to protect yourself? How are you going to make sure that what you're offering and you're doing is completely different, or there's some form of a differentiator to make me choose you over, or make your customer choose you over the other person, or the other party. So I think that's probably the biggest thing. The other is founders just you have the flip side. You've got like a technical founder who has no idea about business, or you have a business founder who doesn't really understand the product and doesn't understand product market fit. So that I see quite a bit. I also then see sales-led growth versus product-led growth. And they're very, very, very different. And product-led growth, I think people think, and this is, just my observation, that if my product is really complicated, it's going to be great, because then, I have to employ all these salespeople to like really, like no one can pick it up and just use it. And that's maybe good for a certain kind of product, but you really need to be thinking about the end user and how easy it is for them to implement, particularly when you're in healthcare. This is one of the things I was thinking about coming to this panel is, how easy is it for somebody to integrate ConsultNet, for example, into the overall sort of management workflow of a hospital? And if it wasn't easy, they wouldn't be successful. And that's one of the big things that I think, people become really obsessed with, how amazingly deep and complicated their product is. And that's wonderful, because you may have designed something that's really unique, but if it's not easily used by the end user, you're never going to sell it. No one's going to want to buy it, no one will interact with you, no one will partner with you, because you need to be able to have that really good integration. That's really common, saying lots of things.
But this and that, because the current is stuff. You got background, so you knew the ecosystem. Some of the stuff that you're doing, have no idea. So, how do you help them develop those partnerships? They might not have the language, they might not have the connections, they may not understand the ecosystem.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the point that I originally, one of my many points probably is having expertise in, no matter who you go to in terms of having a software partnership, or a big company partnering with you, make sure you seek out the person who understands the industry that you're in, because then they will be able to help you to turn the narrative of what you're selling into something that is going to be meaningful for the end user. And because they often will see the white space and the gaps that are in the industry and the ecosystem. And so, yeah, I think having like you having the 5, what letter was that in ideal? 4 other people, no, there was 4. Yeah, okay. Yes, allies. To have like allies who understand your industry, so that you can leverage them if you don't have the words to be able to really understand how to do it.
Yes. Yeah. Can you break up with the partner? when do you know when to break up and how do you break up?
So the principle is, yeah, it does very much. But you don't have to make it over complicated. I mean, every partnership is fit for purpose. This should be. And when time shifts and priorities change, maybe they're not fit for purpose. A strong partnership will identify that. Will have a good conversation. And then they'll go through a process, which might be difficult for one, but they will ultimately, in the best case, do it with dignity and respect, and a way to announce what was delivered through the partnership, where everybody goes, look, it's not going to happen anymore. We've finished the thing that we came to do, the intention rather than network wasn't, and now we're going to move on. Usually, when the intent wasn't known, when time has moved on, and there was no communication through the process, and then all of a sudden, a new senior executive comes in and just goes, we're not doing this anymore. It doesn't fit anymore. Then the first time the other partner often hears about that is through a relationship manager, who then says, so look, guys are wanting something. And there should be no surprises when that happens. There'll be disappointment. If intention is known and you start with a 2+1 year sort of time horizon, and you invest time in regular engagement, when you are starting to measure what's going on and you understand progress is being made and people are good about, then it becomes time to say, let's take it to the next step. But the reset points usually happen when you. So the reason we say 2+1 start is that at the 18-month mark, it should be a very honest conversation. This is working. So you delivered a great first win, you've made progress. Is it working? Why is that? Can we remediate? Can we reset and keep going? Or this is not working for us. Let's just draw a line in the sand in 6 months' time and wind up. But I think the healthcare ecosystem in this country is just too small. It is just too small for anybody to get upset and then throw everything out of the pot, privately or publicly. Because the reality is that we will all work with each other. In one form or another, the movie industries or whatever else, we will work with each other. Or we won't. And it's your choice whether you want to do that now. No one likes to have a partnership, but if it's fit for purpose and you've done really well, the purpose has been achieved, how awesome is that? Like, we came here, we partnered, we achieved, we're done. Awesome. See you next time. Because there will be a next time. Because when you move to your next area, your next role, it'll be, remember we did that thing back in the day with the thing?
Back in the day.
Most of the time, those parts they come back out and sprout out, how did you do that? She worked with it 10 years ago. It was a great experience. So there's no rocket surgery. Really is. But if you don't know the intention, you don't know what you've set out to do. And then you just go, listen, we're going to send them in, I'll say something. Be prepared for it not to be a great transition. Don't do that.
Can I ask a question that comes from that question? And I think, like, so how do we approach remediating relationships? You know, we've started well, we've got our quick win, and it's kind of off the rails, but we know it's the right direction. What's your approach with that?
We go straight back to the original intention. And if the intention was complete, we just essentially reset and say, let's re-establish the intention. And it might be because, you know, you're a company that granted the funding, you found funding and stuff, I might be created, contractors with still with the line, yeah, grant didn't come through, whatever that was. And then we disappointment underpinning it, it's usually quite human. So if we sit around this little orange table and we have discussion about, so what's going on? It's like, there is no, we're not here to say, it's emptiness. We're just curious. So be curious, I'll tell you what, be curious. And when you sit at the table and go, so actually what happened with these things? The most honest conversation you can have where there is no implication or view that something will go wrong and it's a closed shop. Chatham House rules, whatever we say here doesn't go anywhere else. If you're really intentional, we want to reset because we're not clear what's going on. There's a framework for that you can look at. That's not what that is. And you just sort of have a discussion around if we were to start seeking, okay, let's imagine we were to start seeking, and you see people's shoulders right? Because you might not ever had a concept as a YouTube executive. Often it's I'm just inherited this amazing, very broad, very set of options. When you reset, often new leaders feel like something partnership with their own. You see there will be change. I'm waiting for the change. I'm not waiting for it. I'm waiting for it to sort because I'll be told when that change comes. That shouldn't happen in a partnership. That should be we're reviewing every single partnership. By the way, review these understand. By the way, we're going to put time to do this month. And also, by the way, this is about you can expect that we're going to reset because I have a good chance of doing things. I'd like something to think about how you're doing this. And actually, if you think that it's worthwhile, if you think that we're not the right thing, you should feel absolutely okay with something. We can just rely on it and be good. I don't want to do that. I'll just find ways to make it good. But this is very much about having a conversation. Do not do it by email. There's no documentation. This is an exchange which is honest and respectful and graceful. That's actually my life. But it just takes organisation like that. Particularly, we've got a lot of different partnerships. And some, but those who don't decide to come to the table, they're single out there.
I'm going to open it up to everyone here. Does anyone have any questions? Decision tree.
I just wanted to ask, because you've been talking, I like you talking, and then maybe some of your points are relatively church. There's really a relationship. It can approach market. It's not generating that interest. You don't have to fight that asking. What do you think?
Was that for me?
Well, I mean, I can talk about, what we're doing in Health Innovators Circle, and, we are starting fresh. We are starting. And we are trying to find lots of partners and members. I like, yeah, the advice that I would give to, my mentoring would be, get into as many events as you can go to as many conferences, talks, and just kind of get the hustle on, because people can dream of, I want to do this and it's going to be great, but if you don't actually do the work and put yourself out there and build the relationships that are going to last for years, and nothing will come of it, and you just be putting your thumbs in your bedroom. Yeah, get away from the kitchen table. Bring a circle. An orange circle. Or a sort of pinky circle. You'll have to get a pink circle.
And just to echo what Sinead just said, I think for our journey certainly as well, it was right at the start, like we saw the problem. But then again, the healthcare in Australia is very small. So to go to these events, particularly networking events, these types of events, presentation to other companies are pitching and things, that audience, for example, the type of people that you're looking for to raise funds, your customers and your partners, everyone's always there. So those conversations form, those early conversations. I think that's probably how we partnered with Microsoft as well, 3 or 4 years ago when we ended a Microsoft event and attended the Microsoft summit. Mentioned that in that silence, and the introduction to startup program, the ISP program, and things. I actually think that the LinkedIn community, when you guess, tailor it for your use is in healthcare, at least. I'm not sure about other industries, it's very tough in Australia. And some of the, we've certainly had lots of customers come from there, but some of the partnerships that we formed was an interesting example that I had like a year and a half ago, a pediatrician based in Saudi contacted me on LinkedIn, wanting to start a digital referral solution for business customers from a media release that we did from another one of our we saw. And so it was just this kind of crazy kind of parallel lives happening, and that for 18 months is now is slowly forming still, but recently I was there, met him, and then some hospitals was working in, and all these opportunities that came from like that one reach out 18 months ago. So if you do that, that certainly can open doors. But if someone reaches out to you as well, it's usually always useful to apply to have a copy of that.
Social selling is a huge thing. I think that we underestimate the value of our brand, our personal brand, and the ability to connect. And I think codes helped tremendously in that sense, because everyone behind the screen, and it's much easier when you're talking to somebody you don't know than often, than an email, whatever. Yeah. There was another question.
How do you get those 5 allies within your organization? Because you might need someone like me, but maybe access to other people in case you lose. There is no.
So there's 2 ways. The first, great observation around the companies putting on events are doing that as a method of outreach. That's their mode of extending it. So because I want to go to events, that's fine, but don't say that you want to try to make a pitch. That's the way. So first of all, when you go to a networking event, I know we get to the previous company go to a networking festival, but come with the arts. But the greatest sell to any partnership is and there's nothing worse than not. Right, to meet you together. Because great to meet you, I just want to say, well, show you. This is not puzzling. Give me guys for the details. Say, listen, I'm not sure that you would be the right person for me to chat to you, that you are. But if you're not, is there another colleague of yours that operates in respiratory medicine, for example, would be the right additional person? Oh, sure, I'll connect you with Jill. Jill does this. Then you start to pick that together. Now, the other part of that is very much companies, essentially in Australia, we're quite a small sales operation for most large companies. So assume that in the Australian context, most large multinational companies are sales operations, and their incentive model is about consumption, selling, doing the thing. So being able to then look at LinkedIn and put that to good use and just filtering out and saying, so who is at Microsoft, who has healthcare and the type of the case is, and just build a list of the people that are there. Reach out and say, hey, listen, I'm from okay, we do this, would like to connect and learn from you. And then just over time, just understand how they through that process. So by the time you have a conversation with your neighbor on the team, it's like, oh, I follow Jill and Harry and John, are they all connected? Yeah, they're all connected. So we work to a deal 12 months time. Cases. You've already got sort of a line to those people. It is such a powerful tool to understand and network. Now, of course, it's not often clear where the people always get sick because they can ship roles and whatever else. You've got a number of role changes inside Microsoft. Titles mean nothing. So the reality is that being able to understand where your target ecosystems live, consider it a smaller. Right? 10 minutes of your day where you can sit around and I wonder who is talking about different things at Microsoft. But it's really come and ask and then use LinkedIn as a way to understand what's going on. It's a simple statement.
Can I say also leverage if you've got a advisor or some mentors of people you trust in this touch. Give you one example, you really 12 months into discussions
they move very slowly. But one of our advisors used to write to the board. He knows every person and the actual sequence because the group to get across the line, especially in those large organizations. You've got to have not all of the board members in folks that group. And we can catch up with someone new, almost they might be reporting to that with the person or that who's one of the five to get them on stuff. Get that other one can be quite a long process. Really leverage if you do have advisors who trust people in the network who might have those contacts, see if they're willing to give you that information. It's a great insight. And the other thing as well is, we talk about allies, it doesn't need to be allies in the team doing the partnership. Right, so there might be people who, for example, you establish two people working with at one point, you might have built a relationship with one of the people now works in the States, someone's not going to Europe. That is still part of your allies. Because they're not part of the partnership, doesn't really mean very much. You still want to know people working with, obviously. It's about having air cover through the partner organization that shoots and strength.
I just one very last thing. Just remember that people are people, right? And people are like you said, there's probably one person doing the role across all. But for me, there's only one healthcare ISV. That's me. It's ridiculous. We need more. But we don't have any headcount. But so in many of the cases, there will be one person. But what helps is if you help that one person do something. Like if you find out what it is that I really need, and it might be nothing. It might be like tell my boss how amazing I am, or like something that I post on LinkedIn, or like something that I post on LinkedIn, or an event, or often back to your dual benefits. It's not always something that you have to. Like it won't cost you often a lot, but it makes you memorable to the person who you're talking to, and then I would continually go on. Invite you to an event, invite things, and then you start building that network. And so it's people help people. I think, at the end of the day, we're all partners.
Time, but before we go, I ask each one of you to share with the audience what would be the one thing that you would like them to take away when they're actually thinking of partnership. One top 10.
Use your power. You can choose your partnerships, which is really and go from there. Follow house.
Oh, I want to say intent, which you mentioned earlier before I heard that. I think something what we've done is just keeping in healthcare, particularly keeping it open and broad as what those opportunities might. What those partnerships have opened up in terms of opportunities as well. So we've had lots of different companies and organisations that we've reached out to now. They're increasingly reaching out to us as well. And at the start, I think it's not clear what that partnership might be. And so as you kind of spend a bit more time thinking about it and talking to them, you can then work that out as well. So yeah, keeping your mind open. You might not know what the intent is at the start. You spend a bit of time thinking about it.
I'm just reflecting on stuff that I don't do very well, so I need to work on. But I think consistency. Just having that constant, checking in. Like I do it pretty well, but I also feel like it's something that we all probably need to do more of as humans. So yeah, consistency, and probably going is like not so niche that you're too small, but like having a focus rather than being too broad. I think too broad can be too much. Yeah, consistency. Ideal.
Is this partnership ideal? Life's too short for shitty partnerships.
Agree. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Call to action.
Oh, thank you. So after a coaching program for people to become better coaches, we launched today after 12 and 15 months of development.
Today.
Yeah. The purpose of it really is to get people upskilled in this, and it's really designed for entrepreneurs, sales and marketing leaders, people who know that publishing is important, that don't have a system. And so the idea of having a system is really to unlock growth and give you back some time. So you're not spending every 2 minutes just following up with people around this is how things will be. This has been built with input from companies all around the world. It's designed to be a relatively high touch model where the weekly group coaching calls, we go through cohorts every month, and there's only 10 people per cohort. So the idea is to make sure that over 12 weeks, you can come out being able to close 6-figure partnerships, essentially in research. And every tool is been built to make that work this. So if you're interested in it, that's great. But we are going to scholarship through one of the female founders that comes from you good people, so that can start coming through, because if you can start a journey building partnerships first, and you don't have to focus on this idea of paying retention and doing all the things that are just grinding it's all around, it makes for a much stronger organization. So thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you. Just the last slide is our call out, which is to please sign up to our LinkedIn page so that we can follow you back and we can start creating little partnership circles. And if you know somebody who is, a woman, identifying woman, who wants to build a healthcare company and is interested in getting support, please send her our way. And if anybody is interested in, like sponsoring us, our next event so that we can put food on, that would be great. That's no, seriously. We're going to be putting more events on. The amazing Reactor team. Thank you so much, Isabel. Fabulous. Isabel's amazing. But yeah, we will put more events on, and
The next event,
the next event.
you may get to decide how do you use AI responsibly.
Yes, it will not be at the same time as Digital Health Festival.
No. Yeah.
Yes.
So
I'm open for sponsorship. Thanks everyone. Thanks so much for coming.